Welcome to Ivy Lane Home. Today's project is this really cool Lane Postmodern set. So I found it on my local Facebook marketplace. It actually came with a dresser and a nightstand. It obviously was original, had a lot of dings on the sides and such, had some scratches on the gold accents, but he started pretty high and then ended up coming down to 150. So I decided it's a good buy for this set. Now, I live in kind of a mid-market, so I'm not really sure how this will sell in my area, but I love the look. Now, this is a kind of like a Formica top. You can see I have some areas on the top that, little dings and such, which is appropriate for its age. It is a Lane, some wood construction, some what I would call composite. Now, it does have these really cool brass accents, which I love. They're really cool. It has a plinth base on it. So as you can see, that one area has quite a bit of scratching on it. And so it definitely is going to have to be addressed because you can see it even when the drawers are closed. It does have the plinth base on it with the brass that wraps around. This side looks pretty good. You don't have any major damage on it. I think things are just kind of consistent with the age of the piece. So I did a poll on Instagram to see, okay, what should I do with this piece? Because my options were the Formica on top is a different color. I could match it to that. I could match it to the existing body because it is a collectible piece. So I think, maybe people would want it in the original condition, or I could go with a soft white. And as you can tell, most of the people decided I should do with a soft white. And then one of my friends, Erin from ETZ Modern Vintage, she messaged me and said, it looks like it's been sitting in a smoker's house. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want it to look like it's in a smoker's house. So because it has a yellow look, which I think was original. I mean, when I look them up online, a lot of them do have that. They call it cream, but really over the years, it's more yellow. So I decided, you know what, I'm definitely going to have to paint it, but I'm going to get it cleaned up. And I think we can all agree that after probably 50 years, maybe 45, I think we can go ahead and take off these staples and the cardboard from the underside. I see these a lot. People just don't take them off. So I love these little upholstery tools help me get underneath those staples. And then this one just kind of helps rock out those staples. Super easy. So the only main problem I had with this was this corner. You can see there's a big chunk missing out of it. So this is going to be a painted piece anyway. So I'm going to use Bondo, which is a 2-part system. It has a putty and it has a hardener. I'm going to mix it up. I like to do small batches, and I'll put it on there and kind of recreate that corner. I'm going to use 180 to scuff sand the whole thing. You use 180, 220. It just depends. You don't want to break through the surface. I'm just basically etching up the surface so that I have good adhesion when I go to prime and paint. I want to make sure I mask off all of the gold areas so that I don't get any paint on those, because I do need to, I'm going to try to restore that with some Brasso later. So I'm going to make sure I don't get any overspray on that area. The last step is I need to clean it off. So I'm going to use liquid sandpaper. This is not a necessary step, but I like to use it when I'm doing painted pieces because it's just kind of like extra insurance. And then the top is for mica, so I'm going to use Ben's shellac primer for it. Now this is $20 per rattle can, but because it's shellac based, I could load it into my spray gun, but honestly it just makes a big mess. So sometimes rattle cans are just easier, and so I'll put that on the top, and on the side, since it's more of a composite, I don't have the adhesion problem, so I'm just going to use the Ben 123 primer, which is a water-based primer, and I'll spray that on the sides and the rest of the drawers. After my first coat of primer, it always reveals any imperfections, so I'm going to use the Bondo glazing putty and just put it on with a Bondo spreader. It's really good for shallow scratches or dents. It dries pretty fast, and I just need to sand it smooth and reprime it. I had one area on a drawer that needed to have like a corner recreated, so I'm using Bondo. That's more for structural repairs. You wouldn't want to use the glazing Bondo for something like on a corner. You want to use something a little stronger. Now I'm ready to move on to paint. I am using Sherwin-Williams Gallery Series in the color Soju White. I'm using my Erlex 5700. My last video, I was using a 1.5 tip because I like to not have a ton of overspray, but someone recommended I move up. So I was like, okay, I have a 2.0. So I switched the needle out and I'm using a 2.0, and it definitely comes out more. And I do feel like I could dial the adjustment on the air and I didn't get too much overspray, and I was able to go a little bit faster. So I think for paint, I'm going to start using the 2.0 and then stick with 1.5 for my top coats, because usually top coats are definitely a lot thinner. I'll do a little scuff sand in between coats, dust it back off, and I'm ready to do my second coat. So now it's time to address the brass. I'm going to pull all this off and think, okay, how am I going to recondition this? So on a majority of it, I'm just going to try some Brasso and see. Now the ones I had, the area that had the really big scratches, I thought, okay, well, I'll start with Brasso first. You know, just try really light. So I went over that. Of course, the scratches were just too deep. So I started going with a really high grit, started kind of sanding it a little bit, see if I can even those out. And of course, that was taking off the brass. I was like, that doesn't work. So I have restored some brass plating on a bookcase. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to heat up the metal, and then you take some brass brushes, and then you put them on your drill, and you go over the piece, and it's supposed to transfer the brass from the brush to the metal, which it worked on the barrister bookcase that I did, but it was not working on this. It actually took more of it off. So I don't even know if this is real brass or not. So as you can see, now I have a mess. And so I've gone from bad to worse. So step number 2 is, okay, well, let's try a spray paint. So I Googled gold, chrome, spray paint. It took me to this one. Then another one, I went to Advanced Auto Parts, got this one. It's supposed to be chrome, shiny mirror finish. It was not. So I was like, okay, well, my two ideas are not working. So I decided, okay, well, let's just take it off and see if I can get a replacement. So I Googled it on Amazon and found one that was the same width, and it's a peel and stick. So I got my heat gun out. Thankfully, it was just kind of held on with a little bit of glue, and then there was a groove area. So I was able to just get it out pretty easy. And the other brass trim, like I said, it's just a peel and stick. So I used the old brass trim as a template to cut the new one, and it's easily cut with just scissors. So I marked where I wanted it to be, cut it, pulled the backing off, attached it, and it looked beautiful. Now, it was just a tad yellower than, I think, the plinth area. But I think once the drawers are shut, I think it's going to look great. Because there was a little bit of marring on the top one as well, I decided I'm going to take that one off too. So I was just going to take the second one off, but I thought, I have extra. Why don't we at least have those two areas match? So I'll have the top two are brand new, and I left the plinth because it kind of curves and goes around the corner, and it looks really good. So I'm just going to leave it as the original. I'll try to leave as many original pieces as I can on a piece. My last step is I'm going to recondition all the drawers with some Danish oil. Just kind of revive them and refresh them. Well, let's look back at the before. This was a fun little project. I don't know. This is not typically my style, the postmodern, but I really am drawn to it sometimes. And so when I saw it, it was, I think, originally like $250, and like I said, I got it for $150 for the set. And I thought it was a good buy, but it didn't need a ton of work. I obviously had a little bit of creative solution for that brass, because that's kind of an integral part of this set, is that brass. So I knew I had to get it right. So after all that, here's the finished product. What do you think? It's pretty cool, isn't it? I know it's not like a huge change, but it takes a vintage piece, and by doing the fill and all that makes it, it's pretty close to being perfect. It's not perfect because it's vintage, but being able to change out the brass really helps it, because it was very scratched, that one area. I'm really pleased that I was able to blend in with the plinth brass. It looks great. You know, this paint, I think my second or third time using the Gallery series by Sherwin-Williams. I'm super impressed. I mean, it lays down beautifully and it dries rock solid. So I've been super impressed with it. You know, that one side was really beat up, you can see there. And by doing all that fill, I was really able to get a beautiful finish. So enjoy some of these videos and I'll come back at the end. So this is a really cool piece. I love it. I'm just not sure how it's going to sell in my area. So what do you think I should ask for this? This is a pretty cool piece, but I know it's probably pretty niched market. So tell me what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.